What do you say, everybody? Aaron Desai's joining the show. We're going to talk about this Cubs team with 6 games left, trying to clinch the home field advantage in the wild card, maybe backing into the playoffs. I know they already clinched, but this team looked really bad in Cincinnati. We're going to talk about who's hot, who's not, injury update on Kyle Tucker, and more. Let's get the show started. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel, and Aaron Desai, one of our great viewers and commenters and a really smart baseball guy, and he's become regular on the show. Good to see you, Aaron.
Hey, thanks, Mick. Thanks for having me on. Look forward to catching up on where we stand.
I know. I don't want to be too down, right? I mean, we did clinch the playoffs since the last we talked. But the Cincinnati effort, to me, was just awful. Now, I'm glad that the Cubs are coming back home. They can single-handedly get the Reds into the playoffs, after taking a nosedive and a sweep of a 4-game series against the Reds. Now they have the Mets tonight. So 4 games against the Mets. You and I are talking before the show, and we're like, well, what's going on right now? And you said it feels like they're coasting to the finish.
Yeah, it just seems like the way they've been playing, even before that little 7-1 streak we had where we clinched the spot, it just seemed like we were kind of going through the motions and just kind of going 500. And yeah, this weekend was pretty. I mean, I understand the little letdown after the clincher, but those 3 games after, you got to win 1 or 2 of those games at the very least, just so you can get that momentum going and kind of lock up home field and maybe make sure that we don't need to use pitchers in a meaningful appearance. As we go down the stretch and just guys get some tune-ups, get some, 1-inning outings, things like that before October. So they do need to win a couple of games still, just to clinch this home field up and just get some momentum going. But yeah, and then these next 3 games are going to be playoff games for the Mets. So, this will be a good test for them to kind of get their heads on straight.
You got the Mets, and then you got the really bad Cardinals. I mean, there's got to be some wins in there. What happened to the Cubs in Cincinnati? It felt like a big hangover, right? They clinch against the Pirates, which always seems to happen. I know some of you guys in the comment section said that. But, and then all of a sudden they lose 2 games, 1-0. The offense back in the can again. I thought Owen Casey could help the team. I really feel like he would have. But he had the concussion, and, who knows what the situation's going to be. Maybe he's back by the time the show comes out. I don't know. But I don't know that he has enough time to really make a difference at this point, right? Like, I think you would have had to have played him so that you would feel good enough about him helping in the postseason. And then we're going to talk about Kyle Tucker here in a second, but just everything you didn't want to see. And now all of a sudden you've played the Reds into one of the hottest teams in baseball.
Well, yeah, they have a good pitching, and they're playing for their playoff kind of lives, which changes, their focus, and they got a good manager over there in Tito. So, they're not going to let up. But yeah, I just didn't see the at-bats weren't great. I watched a lot of the game on Friday and Saturday. Just not good at bats. Just not obviously Porter Hodge struggled, and a few other guys struggled in terms of, and then Imanaga didn't have the best outing either. So yeah, yesterday was the game I really thought they should have had that one. It's 1-0. I understand you lose that hangover game 1-0, but this game was really that yesterday's game. The Sunday game was a really tough one that they didn't score a couple runs just to leave with a good taste in your mouth as you head back with an off day. So yeah, just not good. I mean, I do think without Tucker and with Seiya's kind of like in and out of the lineup with an illness, and then these little things like he's not in a groove either. So those are our 2 best thumpers that and then also PCA obviously would be the third. I mean, they're just not where they were when we were a much better offense, a much more dynamic offense. So that's the challenge right now. I think we need Tucker back, man. We need Tucker back Thursday, Friday, Saturday would be great. That would be ideal for him to get some at bats, DH, play one game in the field or something. Even if he just DHs, I think it would mean a lot. And I do think that there is a sense these are big league players that they can turn it on once the playoffs start again. But we'd like to see it as fans, to see it with our own eyes, not just assuming.
Yeah, right. I don't know that there's a exact formula for winning, right? Like sometimes you back into the playoffs and then you get a second win, right? Sometimes you have a great start to the season and then, you're terrible in the second half. Sometimes you get hot in the second half and it just rolls right into the postseason.
Yeah.
Sometimes you catch a break and it brings everybody together. Sometimes you have the best team in baseball all year. And then, like those Cubs teams, 07 and 08, and then you get in the playoffs and you get swept. You can't score any runs. Cubs haven't won a playoff game since that amazing series in 2017 against the Nationals. And then they lost a couple wild card games back when it was a one-game playoff. So, back again, we'll see what happens. It's going to be against the Padres, and it just, depends on whether the Cubs choke up home field advantage or not, which I hope they don't. Now, before we get into Kyle Tucker, I want to remind you guys to join Mick Nation, and that's our AveD home. And the QR code is for that. We are going to give away tickets to Wrigley if the Cubs get to Wrigley. And so we're hoping we get there because we've been promising you at least 2 sets of tickets. But we got hats and T-shirts and all that stuff too ordered. And I'm going to get coffee mugs just for you. Because you said, hey, we need a coffee mug. I anything with the logo, there's the logo right there. So all of that stuff's actually been ordered and it was fun getting it. And so same brand as this hat that I got on right here, this Rhino hat. These Richardson hats are pretty cool. All right, Kyle Tucker injury update. Now let me kind of set this up for you. As you guys know, he hasn't played since the beginning of the month. Felt like the Cubs, I don't know. I mean, this is just my sense, but it didn't feel like they realized how significant this calf injury was going to be. He stuck around and then he ended up going to Florida, where he's from, to do therapy there. He's been hitting. I don't know what the running's going to look like, but then Craig Counsell's been asked about it, and he's like, basically says, in this current rehab program, Tucker has not yet progressed to running, but he has been hitting. And then he's going to show up to Wrigley Field Monday to Chicago, and then Tuesday he's going to be reevaluated before the game, and they're ruling him out for Tuesday's game. So basically, there's 5 games left. If he comes back and they feel good and he's going to play, 5 games to get ready for the postseason. I have a contention on a couple things. Now, first off, how much is he going to push this? Or how much permanent damage could it do if there's something significantly wrong, knowing that he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year and he's set to make, generational money. He's going to make $400 million or more dollars. And that's on the low end of what everyone is speculating, right? Or is he just that kind of competitor where he doesn't care? He's going to come in and going to play and do whatever he's got to do to play. And I mean, I think we would all love to see that. But your thoughts on Kyle Tucker?
I mean, what you said is, as a fan, we only can go by these reports. There was a little bit of an issue last year with Houston with his shin, and some guys just heal differently,
Yeah.
Just their bodies are just different. And he's, obviously you heal different when you're 23 versus when you're 28, 29. We've seen it with a lot of players. They just change as they age. And there's a lot of wear and tear. These guys play so much when they're young. So who knows, right? Everyone's body's different. But I do think that it wouldn't take him long. I mean, remember spring training, how he had like 1 hit or something like that in spring training. And then that Arizona series is just rocking the ball. So I don't think we have to worry too much about his ability to like kind of be ready to go. But I'd love to see him get, 2-3 games of at bats. That they can simulate a lot of stuff too, in a real, real game situation. Not batting practice. Whenever I see batting practice, I'm like, well, what is this? And they're just like throwing these meatballs, in for whatever, right? So maybe he takes some batting practice from Palencia that'll get him ready because he's coming back too. So yeah, I think it's fine. I just think they need to just 2-3 games, and then hopefully he's ready to go. And then he's just a threat. That's the thing. You just want him to be in that lineup as a threat, take walks, work the count, turn on a ball or two, and then that'll just change everything. I think it'll change the whole shape of the navigation of the lineup, especially in these October games where every pitch matters. It's just a huge impact. So yeah, I mean that's the thing I'm hoping for. But yeah, I feel like we have two routes. With October, we're not really built for October, but we're definitely built to win games in October.
Right.
And I do think that through the pitching sequencing, and then if Tucker's bat is there, I think those are the two avenues that I would be counting on.
Yeah, I would love to see him come back and just blow everyone away and be the Tucker at the beginning of the year, not the Tucker that we saw, after the sliding injury, in the fractured hairline, fractured hand, and who knows how long this has been bothering him. I know he's been out since the beginning of the month, but yeah, it's hard to say. I hope he's ready to go because they're definitely going to need him. I mean, this is what you went and gave up a ton to get him for, and I don't know if the Cubs are going to be serious contenders to bring him back. I don't know. I don't think any of us know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance that, because of this second half, maybe, the offers aren't as good as they thought. And then the Cubs could get him, with like a front loaded deal with an opt out. So then he could go back into free agency. I mean, I could see that happening. Because, the Cubs still like are in this window with Nico and say, I mean, I don't say it happened. They're locked in with these no trade clauses, like how would they even replace his bat? Yeah, you could put Casey in right field, but he's a rookie. And then you have like another hole. Cause like that's an unknown. Right. And then PCA was, kind of Jekyll and Hyde season. So, you can't just assume anything. So maybe that'll help us this second half, but who knows, right? That's November talk. But really, yeah, I just think that if he can come back for a few games and just get a little tune up against these games that kind of matter against the Mets, then hopefully that'll be enough for him to kind of be ready for the Padres. And I'd really like the Padres matchup. They don't have that much left-handed pitching. These left-handed bats usually kind of shine in a short series. And obviously the Padres are a different team outside of Petco. I think they'd be different in Chicago. We haven't played them since April. So there's just a lot of advantages, I think, between the two with home field and the matchups. And they have a very good bullpen. So we definitely need to get a lead early. So those are just some of the things I'm thinking about matching up to them. But yeah, it kind of all rides on Tucker. I just like if Tucker's in there and we can get some early runs, then I'm more confident that other guys would score on top, right? If it's like 1-1 in the sixth, I think we're in trouble. But if it's 4-1 in the third or fourth, I just think that there's more likely that we would score more runs because we've got a lead. But then, the younger guys aren't looking to, be heroes. And that's sometimes that you've seen that with younger hitters in the playoffs. They try to be heroes and they get out of their shoes and their plate approach.
Yeah. 4 is the magic number. So 4 Padres losses, 4 Cubs wins, any combination of that. It was 3. Some of you guys put in the comment section, you're like, it's 3 because we had the tiebreaker. We split the regular season series and then it was 3-3 in the 6 games. At least that's what I had it at. And then all of a sudden we get swept by the Reds and now they have a better divisional record than us. And I looked at it like 5 times. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So these games all have consequences. And, just because you made the playoffs doesn't mean that the season's over. They've got to get focused again. And they got to figure out a way to score some runs, but it's 4. So one day can change everything. Look, you win Tuesday and they lose. And then all of a sudden, or say, whatever it is, right? Like one game changes everything. So you get to 2, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we got this kind of in the bag, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think they'll probably start thinking about lining up their pitching as well. So they might not be they want to empty out their pitching staff either, for just an outside chance of getting a home field. So
But let me say this too, while we're recording it, it's 4. So it could be 3 because
Right.
they play the Brewers. So they lose and it's 3. And then all of a sudden, you're feeling good, much better. Then one night you can get it changed. But while we're doing it right now, it's 4.
Yeah, and they're playing the Mets, and stick it to the Mets, man. They're playing for their playoff lives too, holding off the Reds, and let's bury them.
This.
Let's bury the Mets.
Reds have the tiebreaker against everybody. That's in that that list of teams there that are playing. So Reds got to go. If the Reds go 3-3, then even if the Mets go 4-2, they still win because they have the tiebreaker. No. Let me take that back. The Mets have to go 4-2 if the Reds go 3-3 because they're tied right now. But the Reds have the tiebreaker. The Reds, this is a talented look. I'm telling you guys, and I've said it on here a lot. This Reds team has some players. It's always amazing to me how not good they were when you look at Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green and the AveD guy and and some of these dudes that come out of the bullpen, and then they got a bunch of guys that can just hit home runs, and they got Tito as their manager. You know what I mean? Like I'm Tito's really good. He's just a really good manager. Like everybody counted him out, and their chances to make the postseason were so small about a month ago. When we were looking at like the playoff chances, Reds playoff chances were like 10%, and now they're gonna make it unless they just absolutely collapse. I think they are, just because. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like they're going to make it.
Yeah, I just think I think the Mets are just I think they're just crumbling. The way they've been playing, but they don't, they're such on a downslope overall record since like June, July. So yeah, but we'll see. You never want these hot teams in September, man. They can really take advantage of the schedule, right? Because sometimes you're playing teams that are locked up or totally out of it. And you can just get on a roll, and you can just ride it all the way through. So yeah, those are the dangerous teams, and you're seeing it right now in the AL Central with the Guardians, chasing down the Tigers, and they're playing them head to head. So that'll be a good series as well, as an overall baseball fan, just to see kind of playoff style baseball this week. But yeah, the Cubs have it right here with the Mets. So. We've done it to them. They've done it to us over the years, back when in the NL East. So let's return the favor.
All right, hot and cold. I'm going to start with some cold players. Pete Crow Armstrong, since the All-Star break, 207 batting average, 4 home runs, 19 runs batted in. There was a time when he led the league in runs batted in, and he was right up there in home runs. And then Seiya Suzuki, you talk about falling off a cliff. Before the All-Star break, 263, 25 home runs, 77 batted in. Since the All-Star break, he's batting 143 with 3 home runs and 12 batted in.
Oof.
And it feels like Kyle Tucker being out of the lineup has hurt these guys, because that's how baseball works, man. Hitting's contagious. Sometimes slumping is contagious. So those are your cold guys right there.
Yeah, it's disappointing, obviously, for us, but that just shows the value of roster construction. You have to have a long, kind of scary lineup. So if you lose a couple, then there's other guys that can do it, and it's hard to do that with rookies and second-year guys. Hap stepped up, and Nico stepped up, and Bush is semi-hot the last 30 days. Dansby's had a pretty good last 30, 35 games as well. So, if we can just get Tucker, going, and then like with PCA, hopefully they're working with him in terms of, it doesn't matter if he slugs, he can do other things. So, with that kind of ability, you would think that, all right, my big swing's not working, but I can just slap balls, for singles and, help the team that way.
Man, just get on base. Don't worry
Yeah.
about the home runs. Just get on base. Pete Crow Armstrong has so many different ways to make you pay, right? But let's talk about hot. Nico Hoerner chasing a batting title right now. He's at this check right now. He's down 6. He's only got 6 games left. He's got to bat over 400, but 6 points is not impossible. But you got to have one of those like Titanic games, right? He needs like a 5 for 5 or a 4 for 5, something like that, and then follow that up with another good game and another good game. He's hitting 299, and Trey Turner's hitting 305. Turner's out with a hamstring injury, so his batting, he's not going down or up. He's staying there, and he's the only guy in the National League hitting over 300, which is crazy to think. Turner.
Yeah, it's batting average is it's a relic of the past. But yeah, Nico plays the game the right way. You don't see any letdown from him at all throughout the year. I think he's built for October baseball, so he's going to be really exciting. I mean, he's the kind of guy, I remember, Tommy Edman, he was kind of like one of those guys, like I would fake GM, like, oh, when the Cubs are ready, that's the kind of guy, like a finishing player. And then you saw what he did last year in October. I kind of see Nico that way, like Nico might not wow you like with his counting stats, but in October, he could be just one of those guys. It's like, oh, we pitched around your middle of the order, and then Nico got up and hit a double, a triple, or he, hit a homer that you didn't see coming because, the pitcher was tired. I just see that kind of player in him. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about him in the playoffs. I think he's built for that style, that type of game.
He squares the ball up. I thought that he would eventually hit more home runs, but he just doesn't get enough on the ball, but he hits it on the button, right? So he gets a lot of hits. He just doesn't hit them over the fence, but maybe in the postseason, he'll juice it up a little bit. Who else is hot?
Well, Michael Busch has been hot. He hit 30 home runs the other day, and then Happ has been really hot. I've been looking at those guys, in terms of just, top 4 in the order that I think can do damage. And they're left-handed. I just think that's a huge matchup, aspect as you face a lot of right-handed pitchers, and then also the right-handed relievers late in games. You just need a neutralizer, and the neutralizer is the left-handed bat, not necessarily to slug, but also just get hits, line drives in those hitting pitchers' pitches. So I think that's a huge advantage for them. And then on the pitching side, Keller and Kittredge, they're rocking the Ks. We didn't really have a good, K bullpen outside of Palencia, and he's been doing great. Obviously, we know about Horton. So that's an exciting piece of how this thing is all winding down. And then we talked about it before, Assad and Soroka as being like these like kind of weapons. Because I don't think these pitchers are going to go that deep in the playoff series. They're just going to go like 4 1/3, 3 2/3, and then these bridge guys are going to come in for like 5 to 7 batters and kind of bridge the game to the 1-inning guys. And then you have Tealbar, Keller, and then if Palencia comes back, that'll be interesting. And then
he'll be back. Yeah.
And then Keller and Kittredge for the 9th. So 8th and 9th, I just think that, I think it's going to line up where they can really sequence out a game. But again, they need a lead. They need a lead.
Yeah.
They got to score early, and it's tough the first time through the order. So when you think about how they game plan individual games, that's going to be so key. Like in terms of lineup, like I would bat PCA 9th. I would not bat them, 5th or 6th like they normally do.
Right, because he's striking out too much. Yeah,
and
take
then
more pitches.
Yeah, maybe at the bottom of the order, and you've got a good hitter behind them on the top. Maybe it's a little bit better sequencing. But that's again, that's like the nerds are going to try to sequence out the games and simulate it and see what the best lineup is. But I haven't seen it. I've seen them bat them 6th, 7th, but I haven't seen them bat 9th. So that might be interesting to see where they put them. And then like it's weird, like Carson Kelly gets a lot of his numbers are pretty solid overall, but he's been a little cold overall. Outside of the homers he's hit that are, obviously make the highlights, but also are very impactful in games. So he's been a little cold as well. He's probably played too much without Amaya. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. How many games did he catch the last week here to kind of freshen him up a little bit? Hopefully that helps.
All right, final topic on today's show. Kyle Hendricks to retire at the end of the season. World Series hero for the Cubs. The last couple of years haven't been his best. He's 35 years old. He ended up with a 4.79 ERA. I don't know if the professor is going to pitch again this year, right? Last year he had a 5.92 for the Cubs. It was a struggle to get through the season with him. But I'll tell you what, man. He had some amazing years with the Cubs. He's one of the all-time legends, man. I mean, eventually he'll be a Cubs Hall of Famer. He is someone who just represented the team the right way, pitched in all the big games. He won the big games, and he didn't have overpowering stuff. He just knew how to pitch. I loved him. I loved watching him when he was coming up from the minor leagues. There was people that didn't really believe in him, and then you'd go watch, and it was like, I remember they wanted him to pitch like they had this rule, like you could, it was like 5 innings or 70 pitches, and he'd get through like 5 innings on like 40 pitches. So they had to let him stay out there. He just get people to like, it was just cutting the ball and getting easy ground outs and 7 pitch innings, and then he went to the big leagues and did that. He's always had detractors, and he's always figured out a way to prove them wrong. And Father Time caught up with him, but super guy. And I'm gonna miss him, and it's sad. Here's Rizzo's gone, and now he's gone. I mean, I'm guessing KB's gonna probably retire sometime soon, with his injuries and stuff. So you got Schwartz, and you got Javi, and Chapman, who just keeps on going, right? And he's not gonna last forever. It's just crazy how it hasn't even been 10 years yet, and we're down to a handful of guys.
Yeah, I mean, careers are fleeting. It's just such a short period of time when you're at peak, and then you can last. Arms don't last; they're not meant to do what pitchers do, and obviously your physical skills deteriorate, and the next person is just so talented in modern sports. So, yeah, I mean, I for me, about a month or two ago, I was like, man, what if they released Kyle? And the Cubs just like picked him up. He pitched like 1 inning on Sunday, and then he was in the dugout with us for the playoffs because he's not eligible. I mean, that would be something crazy, right? Like get another coach in there. Pretty much Hoerner and him are best friends, or tied at the hip. So like you just get a second pitching coach, pretty much. I just love to see something like that, and I do think depending on, I'd love to see him. I don't know, maybe when his kids are a little older, or what he wants to do post, but I do think he's going to be in the Cubs front office one day. I don't know when, but I think one day, or if he'll do it where he wants to live. But you could see like when that interview, when we played the Angels, like all the good things he said about the organization. I just do see him being in the Cubs front office one day, especially with his pedigree. And like
always a Cub.
You believe there's a value in like having ex-players, right? The routine, the ballpark, the city, like having those guys in the front office, it's just different. I think it's something we need, because not everyone, like if you didn't play here, you didn't live here, you don't know what it's like being a Cub.
Yeah.
It would be kind of cool if somehow they could sneak them into the coaching staff for the playoffs, but I don't know if that's just a fantasy or not.
Yeah, no doubt. Last thing I want to say today is I watched a lot of the Charlie Kirk stuff, and the fact that Matt Shaw was such good friends with him that he came out of the lineup and then took himself out and went to the funeral. And then I see all like these videos. I didn't even know who the guy was before he was assassinated. And he's got a Cub hat on. And then you hear like the guy was a huge Cubs fan. I hope that we can kind of step away from the political aspect of it and just look at it as like, hey man, like that's what's great about going to a baseball game. You may disagree on a lot of stuff, but you get in there, you sit in those bleachers, you get in the crowd, and we all have that one thing. I know I've been broadcasting baseball for most of my life. That's what I do. I'm a baseball play-by-play guy. And my goal every day is to be able to sit, like to give you the Harry Carey feel, right? Where you sit at the bar and just watch the game. And it doesn't matter what your background is, what you look like, where you came from, but, basically having that feel that we're all welcome. And, that's kind of what we try to do here on this channel. So I know that Shaw's mourning right now. I know him, know him from work, and just definitely feel for him and his, and his family and everything else. So wanted to throw that out there. Naren, always great to see you, brother. Great job. You're really good at this. We got 6 games left. Let's wrap this division up and let's roll into the postseason and catch fire. Guys, get in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Great to see and talk to all of you guys again. And from the bottom of my heart and your heart too, go Cubs. And don't forget that QR code right there, Mick Nation, sign up and play the games and win tickets to Wrigley and some hats and some other stuff as well. But thank you guys, and go Cubs.